a note in the chat to let me know that I'm audible. I think I am. I did a little test. All righty. So glad to be here. A little later today, thank you. I'll explain in a moment. My name's aLex Levin. We're here together in the community of Sun and Moon Yoga Studio. Thrilled to be 30 years old. We had a big celebration at the Arlington studio yesterday afternoon. We lucked out with gorgeous weather, and it was wonderful to see a number of people I hadn't seen in a long, long time. And I was so happy to see somebody who told me she's regularly watching this practice, not usually during the time that I'm on, but later, which I think many of you do, and that's great. That's part of the features that make it wonderful. Um, and Yeah, so thank you. That was Tanya. And I want to thank those of you who signed up today, and maybe you were hoping to come in real time, um, 10 o'clock Sunday Eastern Time. Today is October 6th, 2024. Amanda was signed up, and Holly and Lauren. So thank you, and I hope you'll get to watch now or at a later time. And the many others of you who come and make this practice potent, make this practice reverberate out from each of our hearts out to the world. So thank you. So I had an opportunity to go to brunch, and it's one of these glorious autumn mornings, so I just couldn't pass it up to go with my husband and some friends. So sorry about that, and I hope it didn't throw too much of a wrench into your day. So today I've been thinking all this week, and I would like to linger on this topic for a while. And sometimes as we become conscious of something, a mundane one is when you're thinking of buying a Subaru, all of a sudden you see Subarus everywhere. I've been thinking about the Buddhist idea of poison as medicine. And I'm not an expert in Buddhism by any means. I'm not an expert, even though I've practiced yoga a long, long time. I've practiced Feldenkrais a long time. We're always students, right? We're learning more and more, but it's so valuable to keep knowing that we don't know everything. I don't know if you have this aspect of your personality. I like to know. I like to be right. I like to understand, but we can't grok everything. And the more I'm learning more and more, the more we leave some space for serendipity, to put logical knowledge and historical knowledge on the side a little. We make room for the creative force and other parts of our being to thrive and integrate. So poison as medicine. So this idea that I'm going to read you just a little paragraph from Pema Chödron, one of my first books, Start Where You Are, by her. The three poisons, they say, is our passion, aggression, and ignorance. And we could talk about these things in a different way. For example, craving and aversion, wanting. Aversion is like rage, hatred, negativity, denial. So these feelings that often when we have them, we think we want to push them away right away as well. When we notice they're like desiring something is not, none of these are in themselves wrong. Aversion or a distaste for something is part of another topic I've been talking about, is helps us with discernment. Sometimes it's wise to not engage with something or not want it. But then when it becomes really, when there's an edge of such rage in it or something, that something more is there. And then then that part of us kicks in that wants to better ourselves or deny it or suppress it. And it doesn't actually go away. It just sort of festers. So the Buddhists have a way of working with this, and I've been hearing about it. I heard this, I guess, Stoics is a kind of I've been hearing more and more people studying. I think this is from the Roman days, maybe, and some of the wisdom of the ethics and morals from that time and practices. And Chris Cuomo actually used a phrase, amor fati, love of fate. So this seems to arrive from, this is another sort of like whatever comes to us, even when it's something so difficult or horrible or tragic, that in some ways we just think, let's just learn from this. Let's just, or let's change it in some way. I think there's a great value in sitting with it, in examining it, in entertaining it in some way that feels safe to us. Um, and this week, I also chanced on a little short video from David Whyte, the poet, who the title was "Troubles," the Troubles, and I think that was a period, right, in Irish history, the Troubles. They call them. I again don't know very much about it, and maybe he has a poem to this effect, but he was just speaking on it. And again, speaking of how we might invite ourselves to have the capacity to sit with what's happening, especially in our own emotional landscape when these kinds of things arise. And I fall back on a poem I used to have memorized, I haven't practiced it in a while, by Rumi, The Guesthouse. That whatever guests come to the guest house, that we welcome them, we invite them in with joy. And I even have a little quarrel with that as well, is that I'm coming back to I'm gonna delve into my book, my Pema here soon a little more and dwell on this for a few weeks or maybe a few months, this poison as medicine idea that when we one of the practices they have is called Tonglen, you may have heard of. And in this practice, rather than sometimes what we have is a self-soothing, which is very important when we feel something, when we have a state in ourselves that's difficult, it's valuable to be able to calm ourselves down, to give ourselves some compassion. And that is actually part of this process that all we also not try to get rid of it, like, we're compassionate, but compassionate for the thing as it actually is. So say you're really depressed, really sad, and, I've had bits of this kind of, grief and depression, and the more we try to push it away, it feels like it gets stronger, like, lives in us even more, festers, as I said earlier. So if we can learn to hold it, and sometimes for me, what helps is, like, have it in front of me or a little ways from me, and then let ourselves be curious and wondering about what it is, what it might have to tell us, what it might have to teach us, and let it take its time. This is really important because many of these things have been with us, these reactions, for a long, long time. And they are a little shy to come out in full force and share themselves because they've gotten, like, ostracized, they've gotten pushed aside, um, they've gotten rejected. So to have the, again, capacity to be with them, which they are a part of ourself, it's like a coming home to our full self, that we can sit with them. They will have something valuable. They will have the very medicine that we need for healing, whatever it is, whether it's an emotional, a mental, a psychological, a physical um, wounds that we have. So, so this links to meditation, that it helps for us to be able to sit still with whatever arises. And I have to share, I've shared this oftentimes, but in a retreat long ago, it was about 25 people in this retreat, and we had finished, I think there was a morning talk and at least one meditation, maybe I think it was like a 40-minute meditation in the morning before lunch. And when we finished, before we were excused or we were released from the meditation space to lunch, we the manager, not the guide, teaching guide, who was our teacher Mukti, the meditation manager, she reprimanded us in a way, but for our own educated us, and said that she noticed during the meditation that many of us were fidgeting, we were shifting, and I felt very defensive about that in this particular retreat. I was having a lot of back pain while sitting. And the way I had been taught for yoga and for meditation is that and I still think this is true, even in the face of this, both of these things are true, what I'm going to tell you here, share with you, is that if something's painful, that we shouldn't just stick it out and endure and push through the pain. That, on one hand, is important because we can really damage our knees, our hips. And it is also true that to fidget and respond too quickly to everything that might be um, inviting us to move or shift is not good either, because then we're sort of escaping. So the wise path is somewhere that middle road of kind of, again, entertaining that pain that comes. Who are you? Do I need to shift? How? Maybe the way I would react normally isn't the way that helps me stay in stillness. And I'm not gonna share it this time, but maybe in the next few weeks, I had a very powerful experience later in the afternoon by honoring that stillness. And she was this manager, Patty, she explained that when we're sitting still and then if we fidget, we give ourselves like a little escape route from the difficult thing to hold. So as we sit and we hold the stillness, our capacity builds, the energy builds, and it's a potency that helps us grow that capacity, the capacity that helps grow the capacity. And yet, I would say escape if you need to. So the practice continues. You'll have another opportunity to stay. So escape if you need to, but to the degree you can, stay. And then I want us to get started after that long Dharma talk. So let's ground. I should have invited you to ground a little earlier, but let's do it now if you haven't yet. Let's find the solid space underneath us. Feel it. Find it with your senses. And you might, as I need a little cushion under my right knee. And just begin to ground. And this is just like let yourself heavy. Let your body, like heavy is a verb. And really feel that with an exhale. And so we go with the direction of gravity in our atmosphere. That's down, down. I love this. You might be tired of me hearing me say this. It's wherever we are in this place, if you drop a plumb line from our little spot on the planet all the way to the center of the earth, we're rooted there in the core of this giant rock that we live on. And all of us meet there, it's like helium balloons, right? We all meet down to where all the strings are being held together. Mother Earth holding us. I mentioned Tonglen, I'll come back to Tonglen. And then allow slowly, maybe as you watch your breath, as you feel your breath within this field of gravity, there's the opposite, equal and opposite levity that Lets our hearts be light. Lets our necks and throats and shoulders. I really need this lightness. Maybe this will be the mini movement today of just letting your shoulders make little. My cat is staring at me. Letting our shoulders flow like little figure eights in various planes of this space that we're in. And oh yeah, let's add our arms and hands, circles or figure eights. So often as I come to this practice, I've got three musing animals around me. They're my teachers, my guides. Three furry ones. So at the same time, we're feeling the space around us, and you can even imagine that your hands and fingers, like your fingers are instruments of, they have light on the end of them, like laser beams that go out way, way far. Lasers can travel really far. Isn't that true? They can travel really, really far. I don't know how far. And just dance like, I think there are even qigong movements like this. There's one where the palms are together and make figure eights, and the limit of our palms together, you might find how that limits your spinal movement. So mini dancing movement today. Yes, I didn't plan this one. It just came with the theme. And so as we feel, even in movement, when you feel your limits, and for me, I do have a lot of stiffness in my spine these days, and from inflammation, I think. But how to honor that limit and how to be graceful even around that limit, not necessarily push it, but let flow around it. Let the other parts of you that are more free invite and flow and nourish those parts that are. Oh my God, I wish I could show you my cat. I have to do this. He's just too funny. We got Tommy there. I think he saw himself. All right, and maybe in this breathing, in this marrying of separating and marrying of heaven and earth, of ground and gravity and levity, and following our breath and feeling the spot where we are, but not separate from all the space around us ad infinitum. Maybe that movement lands us into its opposite, into stillness. And so let yourself enter into stillness as much as it's available for you. I don't think the sound comes too well, but I like to ring the bell. As we begin the meditation of will be about 10 minutes today, a little bit longer. Enjoy your journey. Be giving little guiding tidbits. So these first moments as we're still landing into stillness, confirm through your senses, through the skin and bones and nervous system, the solidness of the support of your body meeting the support of the earth. So I'm going to hold off in sharing Tonglen. I want to brush up a little, and I think there's a step before it that we need to visit today. So as being a guest house, as being a lover of your fate, as being open to the troubles, welcoming the troubles, the guests, when something arises that you notice that you would like to push away, that you dislike about yourself, that makes you feel nauseous, sad, any of the difficult ways. But let's also encompass in this welcoming, let's make it a little broader. We've got the 2 sides. We've got the because this is also it can be the craving, too many. You may want notice what you like, what you want, and what brings you joy. It's a matter of degree sometimes. So whatever comes in that moment, notice how you are welcoming or not welcoming, and just noticing how we receive what's coming. These fates, these troubles, these poisons. And if when we can become practiced at that, just that moment which we have, for good reasons, trained ourselves to quickly deal with because we probably had to, um, but to be able to stop, slow down, and go into it is a huge, huge skill. And it's not easy. At first, you will fail and fail again and again and again and notice it afterward. And even the sooner you notice it, it's like, yeah, let's celebrate that. It's a little bit like returning to stillness, returning to consciousness, returning to presence again and again. From time to time, remember the invitation at the beginning. Enjoy yourself. Sometimes you won't be enjoying yourself, and that's okay too. You may have noticed that this practice of meditation, these practices of yoga, of balancing our yin and yang, the hatha, the solar and lunar channels, and bringing balance to our consciousness where we get more clear. And one way the yogis talk about it is getting really still inside the central channel. When we enter here, sometimes the most difficult things arise. And for this reason, it's important that we have support, that we have a step by step practice guidance. Otherwise, we can spin into states of real imbalance of anger or depression. We need to feel support in how to handle and to be ready. So sometimes people come to meditation and the first practices the teacher gives them is to work in the kitchen, to dig in the gardens, to not sit at all yet. They're not ready. So if you find yourself on the verge of something that's too much to handle, seek some counsel of a teacher or your own so that you know that you have the support to get through the storm. And lots of times it's sort of the usual top 5, 10 things that distract us. And then once in a while, it's the really deeper. And the same practices apply. We just have, again, that word, more and more capacity. Sometimes as you come back to consciousness from some distraction, you notice you can relax more. Another handful of breaths together. Thank you. Feel the pause, the stillness that we cultivate here on the cushion. We can also we take that with us. The more we practice, we recharge ourselves in that skill. As we go through our day, you may find, oh, you'll find yourself. It may take time. What it usually does is we find ourselves able to pause, able to catch ourselves in the act of what either pushing away or pulling too much in, or just uh, holding the difficult things, the poisons that come to us in either too aggressively or pushing them away. And so, like Pema says, the peacock apparently eats something that is poisonous, and that's why it has its beautiful colors. I'm not sure if that's true, but it sounds good. I trust her. You know Pema Chödron. If you don't, you probably can find audios and YouTube videos and stuff of her, or her books, talks, really good wisdom to support this path. And thank you so much for being here. I say that again and again, and it's so important. Each of us brings the gem of something from our heart, from our path in this community. And I was so reminded of that yesterday, and seeing one thing I had the honor to do, kind of last minute, but was to create. Annie, our director, had taken schedules from our 30 years, and we put them up on poster board, and with a few articles, schedules of the classes and teachers through those 30 years. And some of them just taught a little bit, but it was so beautiful to remember and see their names. Some have come and gone. Some, like me, have been around for almost all the 30 years. And and uh, and remember their personalities, their gifts, their faces, their radiance, and how it's contributed to the gifts for each of us can take in. All right, friends, enjoy. So grateful for you. Take care. And if you'd like to communicate, I no pressure, but I'd love to hear from you or hear your thoughts, or just know you're there. aLex at sunandmoonstudio.com. That email will come to me. And see you soon.